Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Millions of Americans seem destined to lose their access to healthcare under a new bill due to be voted on by the Senate next week. President Trump is, as he promised, undoing Obamacare, the health system put in place by his predecessor. Democrats say poorer Americans will pay the price with their lives. But Republicans argue the current system is a failed experiment in government overreach. Our Washington correspondent Kylie Morris has been to the Civil War town of Gettysburg to meet those who've fallen through the cracks.
For the thousands of soldiers who in 1863 lay wounded on these fields in Gettysburg, covered wagons brought donated supplies and volunteer nurses tended their wounds. In the Pennsylvania town a century and a half later, those most in need come to a church car park.
How are you feeling in general?
The worst pain that you have is where?
Is there any change in your pain?
And step inside a charity van to find volunteer nurses and doctors again.
You may send one more patient to the van, please.
All right, so now we want to take a look at the foot.
And I have a problem with my foot that I come here and get cortisone shots.
Does it hurt a lot to walk on it even?
I don't have insurance, so I would have to pay $200–300 for a doctor's visit.
How come you don't have insurance?
Because most of the jobs around here don't offer insurance.
Are those muscles tight?
So what if you fell down some stairs today and they said, we're going to call the ambulance, you need to go to emergency?
I would have probably a $100,000 hospital bill added to my credit. Doctor bills are bad credit, you know, until they're paid off, so it makes my credit score very, very poor, very low. And so I can't apply for a bank loan, I can't get a house, I can't do nothing.
Dennis's girlfriend Amy is here too. She has Crohn's disease but can't get follow-up care because none of the local clinics accept her disability insurance. How much of a headache is dealing with all of this?
A lot, especially when you have a chronic condition. I have a digestive disorder that affects me daily. I was fired from 3 previous jobs because I was in the hospital.
Dennis has a new job now, but has to wait 3 months before his insurance comes through.
Very good. You take care. Have a good summer. God bless you.
The patients waiting their turn inside the church either have no insurance or got insurance under Obamacare or the Affordable Care Act that they can't afford to use.
But what we have found is that these people have maybe qualified for insurance, but the insurance that they qualify for has a very high deductible, which means they must pay up to $6,000 before the insurance kicks in. So if you're very modest income, you may have insurance, but you really can't afford to see a doctor.
A little higher this time.
Obamacare may have been imperfect, but it gave an additional 20 million Americans coverage.
Now, the worst pain that you have is where?
It introduced protections for those with chronic health problems, for young people and the poorest of the poor. But for it to work properly, everyone had to buy in.
Until you're thrown into the middle of a storm, you don't really know how it's going to act.
Rick is a regular here. He needs pain relief shots twice a year.
I was run over by a hit-and-run driver.
How long ago was that?
12 years.
He says he's finally been approved for Medicare disability relief. Do you think Obamacare should go? Is it right that they get rid of it?
It hasn't helped me or my family one bit.
What was its effect on you?
It's cost us money. It's taken part of our taxes. I mean, if they can find some plan that's better, that helps low-income families and doesn't punish them.
From Gettysburg, it's only a short drive to the heart of the government Lincoln declared, of the people, by the people, for the people. In Washington on Thursday on the Senate floor, Republican Senate leader Mitch McConnell finally revealed the bill 13 white men had crafted in secret.
It's time to act, because Obamacare is a direct attack on the middle class, and American families deserve better than its failing status quo.
As the Senate leader spoke, protesters with disabilities blocked the hall outside his office. Police dragged some from their wheelchairs when they refused to leave. 43 people were arrested as they protested against threatened cuts to Medicaid, the program under which they get assistance.
No cuts to Medicaid!
The Senate bill sucks. What the Republicans and the Senate are trying to do right now is to put us back in nursing homes and institutions.
The proposed cuts to Medicaid are just one example of how the bill cuts health spending for poor Americans. It then uses those savings to finance big tax cuts for the wealthy and the medical industry.
It's really just a tax bill disguised as a health care bill. They're only doing this to get hundreds of billions of dollars to give away in tax breaks to the rich instead of providing access to health care for them.
And is there anything the Democrats can do effectively to stop this at this stage?
Well, there's two schools of thought. One school of thought says, let them do it. It's going to be deadly for them at the polls. We don't subscribe to that.
It'll cost them in 2018, you mean?
Yeah, but we don't subscribe to that because it's going to cost people in their lives.
There's been an angry response not only from Democrats, but from doctors who gathered for a rally on the Hill.
We call on lawmakers to choose patience over politics.
Not present, but active online, former President Barack Obama, who hoped healthcare reform might define his legacy. In a rare intervention, he posted, simply put, if there's a chance you might get sick, get old, or start a family, this bill will do you harm.
That's the message. Do no harm, Congress. Do no harm.
We've spoken repeatedly over the past few months about the drama associated with the Trump presidency, about the palace intrigue, the controversy over Russia, the bluster. But the single issue that matters most to the voters who chose him is this issue, health care. That's why it's so critical that the Republicans are able to finally shepherd this bill through. Now, it will go to the vote on the Senate floor next week. It's likely to be very close. And remember, whatever form finally they agree on, they have to be able to take it back home and sell it to their constituents. If they get this wrong, if the cuts to Medicaid, if the cuts to women's health care, if the cuts to other pre-existing conditions, if all of those things apply and anger enough people, it could potentially cost them the next election.
Kylie, thanks very much.
I've been